Welcome back to Life of Birch. This is Birch, and we have a cool video for you today because John's Moto Garage has actually challenged me to the 3x3 challenge. So what that is going over 3 ways that the current pandemic that we're going through has changed my riding, and then going over 3 things that you guys probably don't know about me. So shout out to John's Moto Garage for putting me up to the challenge. If you haven't checked out his channel already, definitely go ahead and do that. He is probably one of the biggest reasons that I have gotten as into moto vlogging as I have, seeing as how he was the first and still one of the only few moto vlog channels that I even watch. So shout out John's Moto Garage. Make sure you check him out and stay tuned because we got a good one for you.
Perfect.
Alright guys, so let's kick things off and get started with the 3 ways that this current pandemic that we're in has affected my riding. And I thought it was pretty interesting because on John's Moto Garage he mentioned that the current pandemic has actually had him riding less than he did before. The pandemic has actually made me ride more. I've always loved riding, whether it was motorcycles or BMX bikes or whatever the case is, but honestly sometimes life gets in the way between jobs and, you know, family and all that kind of good stuff. Riding can kind of go on the back burner. But during the pandemic and being on unemployment and not being able to work, and because I work in restaurants, we were the first ones to close down. So because I was out of work, it really gave me time to either stare at the wall and be bored or get out and do something. And getting out and doing something, of course, ended up turning into riding. So it actually ended up being kind of a blessing in disguise for me, because I don't want to say that I had kind of started to lose my love for riding or what, but I had been doing it a lot less. And then once the pandemic set in, honestly, I found myself riding a lot more. Not only just out of boredom, but I mean, like, if you are forced to be quarantined and stay away from people, what better way to do it than to be out on a bike? And you could still even hang out with your friends because you're 6 feet apart and wearing helmets. So yeah, that's the first way that the pandemic affected my riding, is that it actually got me doing it more than I did before. And the second way that this pandemic has affected my riding is that I feel like it's made me more aware of how therapeutic riding can be. I actually made a video about it too because of how much it made me think about it, and everybody always talks about throttle therapy and all that kind of stuff and how riding can almost be meditative, but it honestly has opened my eyes to it way more than ever during this pandemic, just because, you know, it's a hard time for everybody. It's something that nobody was expecting and nobody's used to, having to sit at home, find a new way to live life essentially, because I wasn't in work and whatever. And you know, I'm a really social person, so not being able to get out and see people and work and all that kind of stuff definitely has its downsides for me. So getting out and riding and seeing how much better that makes me feel honestly kind of just opened my eyes so much more to how therapeutic riding really can be. So the second way that my riding has been affected by the pandemic is the fact that it's opened my eyes to how therapeutic it can be. And like I said, I did make a video about that, so look up in the top right corner right now and you should see that and be able to click it and watch it once the video is done. I'll also leave a link to that in the description. Alright, and the third and final way that this pandemic has affected my riding is the fact that it's given me this YouTube channel, honestly. If it weren't for the pandemic happening and me starting to ride as much as I have been, and honestly not working and having the time to find this motorcycle, this YouTube channel would not be what it is today. So I honestly give the pandemic full credit for the fact that this YouTube channel is what it is, and the fact that I've been able to find such an awesome community through being able to connect with you guys and share my experiences and talk to you guys. It's just crazy. It's still something that I never thought would have turned into what it is. So without the pandemic, that wouldn't have happened. So the third, final, and probably most important way that the pandemic has affected my riding is that it gave me this channel and gave me the connection that I have with you guys. All right, so now comes the interesting part. 3 things that you guys may or may not, but probably don't know about me. I was trying to brainstorm on this one and figure out some good ones, and I think I've come up with a few. So the first one that I'm going to start off with, just because it's fresh in my mind from this past weekend, is that lots of people might not know that I'm actually an ordained minister. And the reason that that's fresh in my mind is because this past weekend I performed wedding number 6. I have no idea how in the world I have helped 6 different couples. What are you doing? I have no idea how I have been able to help 6 different couples get married when it all started out as just a joke to get ordained. But honestly, it's one of like the coolest things that I have the chance to do. It all started because I used to be a restaurant manager, and one of my servers that worked for me was was a lesbian, and she and her fiance were having a hard time finding somebody to marry them because most of the people who do it are super religious and don't believe, you know, whatever. So they were having a hard time, and it started out as a joke that I was going to get ordained and do it, and next thing you know, come to find out, you can get ordained online for free. So she took my license one day to get all my information, signed me up, and got me ordained within like 10 minutes online, and the rest is history. I have so far, like I said, done 6 weddings. I've done one for her, I've done one for one of my old managers, I've done my sister's wedding, my aunt's wedding, and a couple friends' weddings. So it's just crazy that the internet allows me to do that and legally marry people. So that's the first thing that you may or may not know about me, is the fact that I am officially an ordained minister. Look at this kid stunting with no hands. That's how it starts, dude. He's gonna have a motorcycle doing wheelies at some point in his life, guaranteed. That's how it starts. That's the feeling that you're always searching for, is that feeling of being that age and just cruising with no hands, just knowing that everyone's looking at you and you're showing off and being so cool. Or maybe that's just me. Alright, and the second thing that I've come up with that you guys may or may not know about me is that I have actually lived within a half-hour radius of the same place my entire life, which is kind of crazy. Oh my gosh, those bumps are just breaking my spine. Anyway, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that I love to travel, like really, really love to travel and see new places, but it's just something about where I live that just keeps me coming back and feels like home. And no matter how much I travel and all the cool places that I see, not that I've been to that many cool places, I'm just saying, every time I come back to this area, it just feels like home. That's why pretty much every video you see, I'm riding through downtown Annapolis or whatever. Downtown Annapolis is just honestly my favorite place ever, for real. If I'm having a bad day, I just come ride through and it just makes me feel better. It just makes me gives me like a sense of home. I don't know how to explain it. I love it. I was born in Annapolis, lived in Arnold for most of my life. Then I moved to Edgewater for a little while, which is only like 20 minutes outside of Arnold and Annapolis, and then ended up moving back to Annapolis and then back to Arnold. It's just something that keeps me coming back to this area. I just love it. I don't know how to explain it. So that is the second thing that you may or may not have known about me, is the fact that as much as I love traveling, I've only lived within a half hour of the same place that I was born. Alright, and the third and final thing that you may or may not know about me is that I am a huge believer in manifestation and visualization, and the fact that anything that you truly want and truly desire, if you can just visualize it, you can manifest that actually happening in your life. So what I mean by that is that I have things like, you know, my vision board, I call it, which is pictures of the things that I want out of life and the things that I expect out of life. And I believe that the more that you look at that and see it and visualize it, the more your brain believes that it can happen, and then you can actually make that happen. And I mean, it goes all the way back to even, you know, when I used to ride BMX bikes, and before you do a scary trick that you're terrified of, I would sit at the top of the stair set or whatever and close my eyes and visualize it happening. And the more that I played that over in my head, the more my brain believed that I could do it, and I feel like that's what helped me do it. So I'm kind of a big nerd when it comes to believing that, you know, if you can see it, you can achieve it, and if you believe it, you can achieve it. If you have dreams, like, chase them. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying you need to do it. Earlier this year, my YouTube channel only had like 200 subscribers, and now by tonight I should be at 3,000, which is insane. Thank you guys so much for that. But it's like, if I didn't believe that I would be able to do something with it, then it wouldn't happen. You have to believe that you can do it and see it and visualize it. And I honestly believe that, you know, within reason, everybody, every single one of you guys can do whatever it is that you want to do with your life. And that's kind of one of the things I want to use this channel for, is to just make you guys believe like you can literally do whatever you set your mind to. So yeah, that's the third thing. I don't even know how to like bundle that up, but I guess the third thing is just that I believe that you can do whatever you set your mind to, and if you can visualize it and see it and believe it, then you can achieve it. So there it is, number 3. Oh yeah, and ADD totally kicked in. The thing that made me think of that as the number 3 reason is because this road is the road that I plan on living on at some point. Like, especially that house, I love love that house. So this is the Chesapeake Bay over here, the greatest view of any neighborhood ever. Like, I literally, the same way that I just drive through downtown to feel better, I drive up and down this road, and it just gives me like this sense of calming and peace, and I feel like I can visualize myself living here. I don't need one of those like big whatever houses, you know, regardless, even if it's a small house, it's gonna be like $1 million house on this road just because of the view and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, I thought of that as number 3 because of how often I come to this road and just ride my motorcycle up and down it and just visualize the fact that one day I'm gonna live here, one day I'm gonna be in a house like that and come out on my front porch for morning coffee and look out onto the bay and the Bay Bridge. And stay tuned, in, you know, 5 to 10 years, come back to the channel and see if it's happened yet. It will happen at some point, it's just a matter of when. So that is what made me think of it. So anyway, enough rambling. Thanks so much for watching this far and watching the 3 ways that the pandemic has affected my riding, as well as the 3 things that you may or may not know about me. Again, shout out to John's Moto Garage for putting me up to the challenge. He did a video about this same thing as well, and he nominated a few people. Honestly, there's nobody that I can nominate because I really don't watch any moto vloggers aside from the big names like Brian636 and Dank Wheelie and Walterific, and none of them are going to see it if I nominate them anyway. But if they did, that would be cool. Those would be the 3 that I would nominate, so I guess tag them in the comments below and see if we can make that happen. But definitely make sure to check out John's Moto Garage. As always, thanks so much for watching. Couldn't be doing any of this without you guys. I mean that wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Love you guys. Peace.